I started noticing strange things about my granddaughter whenever her mother was around. She'd go quiet. Her shoulders would tense. She wouldn't make eye contact. At 8 years old, she was showing all the signs of fear, but she wouldn't tell me why. Then one evening at dinner, when no one was paying attention, she slipped a folded piece of paper into my hand under the table. Her fingers were ice cold and trembling. I waited until I was alone to read it. "Grandpa, look under the boat in the garage. Then you'll understand." So I went to check, and I screamed when I saw what was hidden there. "Thank you for being here with me tonight. Before Emma's note changes everything, I'd love to know, where in the world are you right now, and what time is it? Comment below. Your presence means more than you know." The moment Jason's truck pulled into my driveway that Sunday evening, I felt it in my gut. Something was wrong. These Sunday dinners had become our routine since Maggie passed 3 years ago. But tonight, as Jason climbed out and Melissa emerged with her practiced smile, I couldn't shake the feeling we were going through the motions of something already dead. Then I saw Emma. My granddaughter had always been pure sunshine, wild curls, and unstoppable energy, the kind of kid who'd race through my door straight into my arms. But the child who slid out of the back seat was someone I barely recognized. She'd lost weight, her favorite dress hanging loose. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. She moved with hunched shoulders like she was trying to disappear. 8 years old, and she already looked haunted. "Dad." Jason's voice was flat as he shook my hand. No hug, no warmth. My own son wouldn't meet my eyes. "Come in," I said, reaching for Emma. "Hey there, sweet pea." She flinched. Actually flinched when I touched her shoulder. Then she caught herself and offered a trembling smile that broke my heart. Dinner was suffocating. I'd made all Emma's favorites, fried chicken, mac and cheese, green beans, but she barely touched her plate. She sat rigid fork moving food around while Melissa dominated every conversation. "Emma's doing wonderfully in school," Melissa announced. "Her teacher says she's so well behaved, so quiet." Quiet. Emma had never been quiet a day in her life. Jason pushed food around his plate, nodding at whatever his wife said, but never engaging. The boy who'd talk your ear off about everything had disappeared. During dessert, Melissa's hand moved to Emma's shoulder. The child went absolutely still, like a rabbit freezing before a hawk. Melissa's fingers pressed down, not hard enough to leave marks, but with clear intent. "Emma, tell Grandpa about your new bedtime routine." "I go to bed at 7:30 now," Emma whispered, eyes locked on her untouched pie. "Mom says I need more sleep." 7:30. What 8-year-old went to bed that early in Florida's endless summer evenings? "That's quite early," I said carefully. "Children need structure, Rick." The way she used my first name felt deliberate. Cold. Jason and I provide that stability. "Haven't we, honey?" Jason nodded like a puppet. "Yeah, structure's important." I wanted to shake him awake. But what could I say? What could I prove? On the surface, they looked fine. Only Emma's haunted eyes told a different story. The moment came during one of Melissa's monologues. Emma's small hand found mine under the table. Paper pressed against my palm. Her fingers trembled as she released it, then pulled back quickly, her face carefully blank. I closed my fist around the note. When they left, an hour later, Emma turned at the last second. Our eyes met. The desperation in that look, the raw, terrified plea, hit me like a punch. Then Melissa's hand landed on her shoulder, guiding her into the back seat, and the moment shattered. I stood in my driveway until the taillights disappeared. Only then did I open my hand. The note was crumpled, written in Emma's careful second-grade handwriting. Some letters were shaky. "Grandpa, look under the boat in the garage. You'll understand." I read it 3 times. My heart hammered. What was under that boat? And why was my granddaughter so terrified she had to sneak me a note? The rational part of my brain said wait until morning. But the instinct that had never led me wrong said otherwise. I grabbed the flashlight from my kitchen drawer and headed for the garage. Some things couldn't wait until morning. The garage was dark and cold. I clicked on my flashlight, and the beam found the cabin cruiser on its trailer, the Maggie May, 25 feet, of memories I couldn't bear to take out after Maggie passed. Now it was hiding something Emma had risked everything to warn me about. I climbed aboard and started searching. Storage compartments empty. Nothing under the seats. Then I saw the life jackets piled in the corner, tossed carelessly. That wasn't right. I'd always kept them folded. Someone had been here recently. I lifted the orange foam and my breath caught. A black duffel bag wedged into the corner, hidden deliberately. My hands shook as I unzipped it. The first things I saw were IDs. Driver's licenses, credit cards, all with Melissa's face, but different names. Melissa Warren, Melissa Drake, Melissa Carter. 3 identities, maybe more. Who exactly had my son married? Then I found the notebook. Small, spiral-bound, but what was inside made my heart sink. The first page was a spreadsheet in tight, precise handwriting. Rick Morrison House, $500,000. Life insurance, $300,000. Savings, $400,000. Total 1.2. My life reduced to numbers. But why? I flipped the page and my world fell apart. Timeline 4-6 months. Method TBD, boating incident or medication interaction. They were planning something. Something that would look like an accident. The next pages detailed my daily routine, my medications, my Thursday walks, times I was alone. Every vulnerable moment cataloged like I was being studied. But here's what broke me: the handwriting changed. Some sections in that precise script, others looser, more hurried. And one note in that second hand: we need to move faster. We, not just Melissa, someone else. Someone who knew my routines, had access to my home, my medications. No, please no. Jason, my son was involved in this. The son I'd raised was part of these plans. For money. I couldn't breathe. Then instinct kicked in, the same training that had kept me alive through difficult situations. Evidence. Document everything. I pulled out my phone and photographed it. All. Every ID. Every page of that notebook. The camera shutter clicked rapid fire in the quiet garage. I uploaded everything to the cloud, then texted Marcus, former Tampa PD detective, the one person I could trust. Found something serious. Evidence attached. If anything happens to me, you know what to do. His response came immediately: calling you now. I silenced my phone. I needed to. Car doors slammed outside. Jason's truck engine cutting off in my driveway. They'd come back. My heart hammered as I shoved everything back into the bag, crammed the life jackets over it. I turned off my flashlight just as I heard voices outside. Jason, Melissa, footsteps, coming toward the garage. I stood frozen in the darkness, evidence burning in my pocket in digital form, while the people who had plans for me walked toward the door. The garage door began to open, light spilling across the concrete floor, creeping toward the boat like a warning I couldn't escape. The garage door swung open and headlights flooded the space, forcing me to squint. Jason and Melissa stepped inside their shadows, stretching across the concrete. The truck engine ticked in the silence behind them. I stood by the boat phone in hand, trying to look steadier than I felt. Dad, what are you doing out here? Jason's voice sounded too normal. I tested them. Emma asked me to check on something. Melissa's eyes narrowed just for a heartbeat before her pleasant mask returned. But I'd seen it. She knew Emma had talked. No point dancing around it. I held up my phone showing the notebook photo. I've already backed this up. Already sent it to people who know what to do with it. Jason tried to laugh. The sound came out strangled. Dad, come on, you must be confused. Confused about the IDs. The notebook with my assets and your timeline. The notes on my routine written in 2 different hands. Melissa moved closer, shifting tactics. Her voice dropped to that patronizing tone. Rick, have you been feeling all right? Sometimes at your age, memory issues can be concerning. Even early dementia. My memory's fine. I kept my eyes on both of them. I know exactly what I saw. All of it backed up and sent to someone I trust. That's when I really looked at Jason. My son, the boy I'd raised on that boat behind me. His body language told me everything. Shoulders hunched, arms crossed tight, eyes darting to Melissa like he needed permission. Every defensive posture in the book. Then his mask slipped. Just for a second I saw desperation and guilt flicker across his face before he shut it down. My son wasn't a victim. He was a willing participant. The betrayal hit harder than any blow could have. Jason, my voice cracked, tell me I'm wrong. He opened his mouth, closed it, looked at Melissa. That was all the answer I needed. Melissa grabbed his arm hard enough to make him wince. We should go. Your father needs rest. My mental state is perfectly clear, I said. Clear enough to recognize what you're planning, and clear enough to make sure I'm protected. Melissa's pleasant facade cracked. Her smile turned cold. Protected? Interesting, Rick. Because from where I'm standing, you're a 63-year-old man living alone. So many things could go wrong. Accidents happen all the time. The threat hung between us barely veiled. She tugged Jason toward the door. He followed like a puppet. Didn't look back. Didn't say a word. I stood there until the truck backed out and the sound faded completely. Only then did I sink onto the boat's stern legs, unable to hold me. My son was helping that woman plan something that would end with me gone. For money. For everything I'd worked for, everything meant for Emma. They weren't going to stop. Melissa's threat made that clear. This wasn't going to end with them backing down. This was war. The phone buzzed Marcus trying to call again. This time I answered. "Marcus," I said, voice rough, "I need your help. I didn't sleep that night." How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that notebook. My son's handwriting mixed with hers. The cold calculations. 4 to 6 months. That's how long they'd planned to let me live. By dawn, I was on a video call with Marcus. "Show me everything," he said, his face grim on the screen. I pulled up the cloud folder. Photos of the fake IDs. The notebook pages. Marcus's jaw tightened as he scrolled through each image. "This is bad, Rick. Really bad." He zoomed in on one of the IDs. "Melissa Carter. But look." He opened another window, typing fast. "I ran her name through public records. 3 years ago, she married your son as Melissa Carter. Clean record. But something felt off, so I dug deeper." My chest tightened. "What did you find?" 5 years ago in Arizona, there was a Melissa Warren. Married a 72-year-old man named Robert Warren, retired executive, worth about $2 million. Marcus's voice dropped. 6 months after the wedding, he fell down the stairs at home. Passed away immediately. Ruled an accident. The room tilted. I gripped the desk. "She inherited everything," Marcus continued. "Then she disappeared. Changed her name. Moved to Florida. Found your son. So this is what she does," I said, my voice hollow. "She finds men with money. Marries them. Waits. Then makes it look like an accident." Marcus's eyes were dark with anger. "And Rick Jason knows that notebook you found. His handwriting is all over it. He's not a victim here. He's her partner. My son, my boy. The kid I taught to ride a bike, to throw a baseball. He was part of this terrible plan." "I've got a contact who can help," Marcus said. "Daniel Brooks. He's an attorney, specializes in elder law and financial crimes. He's seen cases like this before. Let me reach out." Within an hour, Daniel called me. His voice was calm, measured. "Mr. Morrison, Marcus filled me in. I want to help. But we need to move carefully. If they suspect you know—" "They already know I found the evidence," I said. "I confronted them last night." There was a pause. "Then we need to act fast. I'm clearing my schedule. Can you meet this afternoon?" "Yes." "Good. And Rick, don't approach them again. Not alone. If they're willing to carry out these plans, they won't hesitate to move up the timeline." His words sent a chill through me. But before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from Jason. "Dad, we need to talk about Emma. She's been acting strange lately, withdrawn, anxious. Melissa thinks she should see a counselor. We've scheduled an appointment for next week." I stared at the message. Emma, my granddaughter. The brave little girl who'd slipped me that note. They weren't just targeting me anymore. They were going after her, isolating her, making sure she couldn't tell anyone else what she knew. My fear turned to something harder, rage. I texted back, "I'll talk to her first. Give me some time with her." But I knew the truth. They wouldn't give me time, and they certainly wouldn't let Emma keep talking. I looked at the phone in my hand, at Marcus's contact, still open on the laptop screen, at the cloud folder, with all the evidence that proved my son had these terrible plans. This wasn't just about protecting myself anymore. It was about saving Emma, and I was running out of time. I drove like hell to get to Emma's school by 3. My hands gripped the wheels so tight my knuckles went white. I had to beat them there. I had to get to her first. When I pulled into the pickup line, my heart was pounding. I scanned the lot. No sign of Jason's car yet. Good. Emma came through the doors with her backpack, and the moment she saw me, her whole face changed. Relief? Pure, desperate relief. She ran to the truck and climbed in without a word. "How about some ice cream?" I asked gently. She nodded fast, her eyes darting to the rearview mirror, like she expected them to appear any second. We peeled out before they could show up. The ice cream shop was bright and loud, full of kids and parents. Safe. Normal. Emma picked chocolate chip, but she barely touched it. Her hands were shaking. "Sweetheart," I said softly, "you're safe with me. I promise." That's when she broke. Tears streamed down her face, and she leaned into me, sobbing. "Grandpa, they're going to hurt you. I heard them. Mom said you're in the way." She said it just like that, like you're nothing. My chest ached, but I kept my voice steady. "What else did you hear?" "Dad owes people money. A lot of money. He told Mom he'd do whatever it takes to get it." Her voice cracked. "They don't know I heard. I had to pretend I was asleep. I'm always pretending I'm asleep now. 8 years old, and she'd been carrying this alone. Emma, I need to record what you're telling me, to keep you safe. Is that okay? She nodded, wiping her eyes. I pulled out my phone, opened the voice memo app, and hit record. She repeated everything, her mother's words, her father's desperation, the nights she lay awake listening to them plan. Legal evidence from my own granddaughter. When we left the shop, I held her hand tight. We're going to fix this, I promise. But when I got back to the truck, my stomach dropped. Both front tires were slashed. Deep, clean cuts, deliberate. Stay in the truck. I told Emma, my voice harder than I meant it. I pulled out my phone and took photos from every angle. Then I called the police. The officer who showed up was young, maybe 30. He walked the scene, took notes, wrote up a report. You have any idea who might have done this, sir? I have suspicions, I said carefully, but I'd rather have this documented first. He handed me a copy of the incident report. Keep this, and if anything else happens, call us immediately. I was still standing there when Jason's car screeched into the lot. He got out fast, his face twisted with anger. You can't just take Emma like that without telling us. I stayed calm, unnaturally calm. We went for ice cream, but someone slashed my tires while we were inside. Funny coincidence, don't you think? Jason's face flickered. Guilt? Fear? He glanced at the officer, then back at me. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you don't. He grabbed Emma's hand and pulled her toward his car. She looked back at me, once her eyes wide and terrified. I watched them drive away, my jaw clenched so tight it hurt. That night my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Stay out of it, old man. The next accident won't be just a tire. I stared at the screen, my pulse roaring in my ears. They weren't even hiding anymore. They wanted me to know. They wanted me scared. But all I felt was rage. I wasn't going to fight this alone anymore. Tuesday of week 2, I sat in Daniel Brooks's office in downtown Tampa. The view overlooked the bay, but I couldn't focus on it. Marcus was there. So were two people I'd never met, but already trusted. Daniel was younger than I expected, 45 maybe, with sharp eyes and a firm handshake. Mr. Morrison Marcus has briefed me. I specialize in elder law and financial exploitation cases. I've seen this pattern before. He paused, his jaw tightening. My own father went through something similar. His second wife and my older brother worked together. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. I won't let that happen to you. The woman beside him extended her hand. Sarah Bennett, private investigator. I focus on elder abuse cases, financial, physical, psychological. What's being done to you and your granddaughter is textbook predatory behavior. We spent the next hour reviewing everything. The photos from the garage, the fake IDs, the notebook with my death timeline, Emma's recorded testimony, Melissa's past as Melissa Warren in Arizona, the slashed tires, the anonymous threat. Sarah's expression darkened as she listened. This is elder abuse with clear intent to harm, and they're escalating. What do? I asked. We document everything, Daniel said, and we build a case so airtight they can't wriggle out of it. For the next 2 weeks, Sarah worked quietly. She ran surveillance on Jason and Melissa. What she found made my blood run cold. They were meeting with people I didn't recognize, rough-looking men in parking lots and diners, large cash withdrawals from accounts I didn't even know Jason had, and they'd rented a storage unit outside of town. They're hiding assets, Sarah explained during our week 3 update. Probably planning to disappear once you're gone. She'd also planted a small audio device near their home. Legal, since it was outside in a public area. What she overheard confirmed our worst fears. Their timeline's accelerating, Sarah said, playing back a snippet, Melissa's voice cold and clipped. We need to move faster. He knows too much now. Jason's response was quieter, but just as chilling. I'll handle it. By Thursday of week 3, we knew we couldn't wait any longer. We need a recorded confession, Daniel said, in front of witnesses. I'll prepare the legal framework. But Rick, this is going to be dangerous. If they feel cornered, they might attack me on the spot. I finished. I know. Sarah leaned forward. I'll set up cameras and audio in your home. Hidden, professional grade, and we'll have the police on standby, ready to move in the second things go south. Marcus looked at me. You sure about this? I thought of Emma, her small hand in mine, her voice breaking as she told me she had to pretend to be asleep every night. For her, I said, I'd risk anything. Thursday afternoon, I made the call. Jason answered on the second ring. Dad, I kept my voice steady. Tired, defeated. Son, I've been thinking. Maybe you're right. Maybe I am making things harder than they need to be. I paused. Why don't you and Melissa come over Friday night? We can talk about transferring the house into your names. I don't want to fight anymore." There was a beat of silence, calculation. Then Jason's voice came back bright and eager. "Friday works, Dad. That's really generous of you." 7 o'clock. "We'll be there." I hung up and stared at the phone in my hand. Marcus, Daniel, and Sarah were watching me. "It's done," I said quietly. The trap was set. I stood at the stove, stirring Maggie's pot roast, and forced my hands to stay steady. Military discipline. That's what got me through combat, and that's what would get me through this. Memories flickered as I cooked, teaching Emma to fish from the boat, her small hands gripping the rod, Maggie's laugh echoing across the water. These were the things I was fighting for, the things they wanted to take from me. Sarah had finished installing the cameras and audio equipment an hour ago. Hidden, professional, and perfectly legal under Florida law, I had every right to record in my own home with my consent. Marcus's voice crackled through the small earpiece I wore. "We're getting clean feed, Rick. Video and audio streaming to the truck. You're good to go." Outside, Daniel and Sarah sat in a van 2 houses down. The police were staged, 2 blocks away, ready to move on my signal. And Emma, thank God, was safe at Marcus's place, far from whatever was about to happen here. At 6 o'clock, sharp headlights swept across the driveway. Jason and Melissa arrived dressed like they were going to church. He wore a button-down. She had on a burgundy dress. They even brought wine. "Dad?" Jason's smile was wide and warm. "Fake. Thanks for having us." I shook his hand, kissed Melissa's cheek, and ushered them inside like the gracious host I'd been raised to be. We made small talk over drinks, the weather, the neighbors, old memories of Jason's high school football games. I kept my voice light, easy. "Where's Emma?" Melissa asked, glancing around. "Sleep over at a friend's house," I said casually. I figured this conversation should just be us adults. I saw it the way her shoulders relaxed, the flicker of relief in her eyes. No witness, no obstacle. Good. Dinner was perfect. Maggie's pot roast the way she used to make it, slow-cooked tender with roasted vegetables and thick gravy. "This is delicious, Dad," Jason said, and for a split second I saw the boy he used to be. Before the debt. Before her. I set down my fork and looked at them both. I've been thinking a lot lately. About getting older. About wanting to simplify things. Melissa leaned forward, her expression carefully concerned. I pulled a folder from the side table and slid it across. "Property transfer documents. You're my son Jason. Emma's my granddaughter. This house, the assets, they should stay in the family." Jason's eyes went bright. His hands actually shook as he opened the folder. "Dad, are you sure?" Melissa's mask slipped, just for a second. Pure greed. "This is so generous. You won't regret this decision. You won't regret this." The words hung in the air like a threat. I poured more wine, my hands steady as stone. The room felt thick, tense. Melissa's eyes kept darting around, suspicious maybe, but the promise of $500,000 was too much to resist. "I just want peace," I said quietly. "I don't want to fight anymore." Jason reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "We're family, Dad. We'll take care of everything." Everything. I let the silence stretch, let them think they'd won. Then I pulled out my phone, opened the photo gallery, and slammed it face up on the table. The screen glowed. A picture of their notebook, the one from under the boat. Every page, every word, every calculation of my death. I looked up, met their eyes, and said quietly, "Before we sign anything, I need you both to explain this to me." Jason's face went white. Melissa's smile vanished, and the room went dead silent. The silence was deafening. Jason's face drained of all color. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Melissa spoke first, her voice sharp. "Where did you get that?" I kept my voice calm, steady. "Under the boat, where Emma told me to look." Jason stood so fast, his chair scraped across the floor. "Dad, let me explain." "Explain what?" I cut him off. "That you and your wife have been planning something terrible so you can take my money." Melissa's eyes flashed. "That's insane. Jason, your father is clearly—" "Melissa Warren." I said, my voice like steel. "That was your name in Arizona, wasn't it? Before that man had his tragic accident?" Her mask shattered. The warmth, the concern, the dutiful daughter-in-law gone. What was left was ice-cold and calculating. I turned to Jason. "And you, my son, you wrote down my routines, my medications, when I'm alone." My voice broke. "You've been helping her." Jason crumbled. His hands shook. "Dad, you don't understand. We're drowning. The business debts. The loans we're about to lose. Everything." "Jason, stop talking," Melissa said sharply. But he couldn't stop. The confession poured out desperate and ugly. We didn't want this. We were going to make it look like an accident. Quick, your old dad. You've lived your life, and we'd use the money to take care of Emma properly. My chest caved in. Take care of Emma. You've made her terrified. She's 8 years old, and she's scared of her own parents. Melissa's voice was cold clinical. Emma will adjust. Kids forget. She'll move on. Jason kept going, pleading now. We'd treat her well, Dad. With the inheritance, we could give her everything. Money from doing something terrible, I shouted, slamming my hand on the table. From harming your own father. Melissa's eyes snapped to the phone on the table, then to the corners of the room. Her face twisted with rage. You're recording, she said sharply. You deceived us. She lunged across the table, grabbing for my phone. Jason caught her arm. Melissa, don't. Bang, bang, bang. Tampa police opened the door. Melissa wrenched free and ran for the back door. But officers were already coming in from both sides, front and back, just like we'd planned. Melissa Carter. Jason Morrison. The lead officer said, his voice firm and loud. You're both under arrest for serious criminal charges. No, Melissa protested loudly, struggling as they handcuffed her. This is a trap. He set us up. The officer looked at her, his expression hard. You confessed on camera, ma'am. In his home. With his consent. This isn't entrapment. Jason stood frozen as they cuffed him, his face gray. He looked at me, his voice barely a whisper. Dad, I'm sorry. I stared at my son, the boy I'd raised, taught to ride a bike, helped with homework, loved with everything I had, and felt my heart shatter into 1,000 pieces. No, I said quietly. You're only sorry you got caught. His face crumpled, but they pulled him away before he could say anything else. Melissa was still protesting as they led her out. The house went quiet. Daniel stepped inside, his face somber. He put a hand on my shoulder. Rick, you did it. It's over. I nodded, but I couldn't speak. My legs gave out, and I sank back into my chair, shaking so hard I thought I might fall apart. Outside, the red and blue lights of the police cars swept across the walls, flashing over and over. The dinner sat cold on the table. Maggie's pot roast, untouched. The property transfer documents were scattered across the floor, worthless now. My son was gone. But Emma would be safe, and that was all that mattered. 3 months later, everything felt different. The legal process had concluded. Jason and Melissa were facing long prison sentences. The courts had seen all the evidence, and justice had been served. Emma was officially mine, full custody, legal and permanent. She started therapy immediately. At first, sessions were hard. She barely spoke. But week by week, things shifted. Nightmares came less often. Her drawings weren't dark anymore. They were full of sunshine flowers and boats on bright blue water. And then one morning, I heard it again, her laughter. That sound filled the house in a way I'd forgotten was possible. Our days found a rhythm. Mornings meant pancakes. She'd stand on her stool at the counter, pouring batter while I worked the griddle. We'd talk about school, about weekends, about everything and nothing. School drop-offs became something I treasured. Watching her wave from the front steps backpack, bouncing smile wide and easy, it reminded me why I'd fought so hard. The dining table, once a place of tension, became her homework station. She'd spread out her books while I made dinner, both of us humming along to the radio. On weekends, we took the boat out. The same boat that had hidden secrets now carried us across Tampa Bay. We were reclaiming what had almost been stolen. I didn't stop there. Daniel invited me to join his nonprofit, and I said yes. Once a month, I visited senior centers to talk about financial exploitation, how to spot it, how to protect yourself, how to ask for help. Sometimes Emma came with me. She'd sit in the front row with her coloring books, then hand out her drawings to the residents. For the grandmas and grandpas, she'd say shyly. They adored her. Through those visits, I realized something powerful family isn't just who you're born to. It's who shows up for you. Marcus stopped by weekly to teach Emma chess. Daniel and Sarah checked in regularly. Even neighbors I'd barely known started inviting us to cookouts and community events. We weren't alone. We had a whole circle of people who cared. One Sunday afternoon, Emma and I were out on the boat. The sun was setting, painting the sky gold and pink. The water shimmered beneath us. Emma looked up at me. Grandpa, do you still think about Dad? I took a slow breath. I do, sweetheart. I think about who he used to be. But your dad made his own choices. She was quiet, then asked, do you think he ever really loved us? My heart ached. I pulled her close. I think he chose a different path, honey. But that doesn't change what we have. We have people who truly care about us. and we have each other." She wrapped her arms around me and rested her head against my chest. I looked out at the horizon, the sun sinking toward the water. "Maggie, I hope you're proud. I kept her safe. I found strength I didn't know I had. Growing older doesn't mean growing weaker. It means gaining wisdom, experience, and courage." Emma pulled back and smiled up at me, her eyes bright and clear. "I love you, Grandpa." "I love you too, Emma." Her laughter rang out across the bay, carried on the warm breeze. We'd come through the hardest days imaginable, but now, finally, we were free to move forward together. Looking back at this true story, I realize how close I came to losing everything. This is one of those grandpa stories I never thought I'd have to tell, but I'm sharing it because someone out there might need to hear it. Don't be like me. Don't wait until you find a notebook under a boat to act. I ignored the warning signs for too long. Emma was terrified, and I told myself she was just adjusting. Jason was distant, and I made excuses. Melissa's coldness, I brushed it off as stress. I almost paid for that denial with my life. Here's what I learned from this true story. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Speak up. Ask questions. And for God's sake, don't isolate yourself. I thought I could handle everything alone because I'm the grandfather, the protector. But the truth is, I needed Marcus Daniel, Sarah, my whole community. Without them, this could have ended very differently. Being older doesn't make you weaker. It makes you wiser if you're willing to use that wisdom. Don't let anyone convince you that your age makes you a burden or in the way. That's exactly what they want you to believe so they can control you. And here's the most important lesson from these grandpa stories. God gave me Emma's courage when I needed it most. He put Marcus in my life at exactly the right time. When I felt most alone, God reminded me through that little girl's note that I wasn't fighting this battle by myself. Faith doesn't mean you won't face darkness. It means you won't face it alone. This true story isn't just mine. It's a warning. It's a reminder. And it's proof that even in your 60s, you can still fight back, protect the ones you love, and by the grace of God, win. If you've heard similar grandpa stories or lived through something like this, don't stay silent. Share your experience. Warn others. Stay vigilant. Stay connected. And never stop fighting for your family.